From the shape of the shadow to the time of totality, making data-rich maps that are a thing of beauty. I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me is Michael Zeiler, eclipse cartographer. Welcome, Michael.
Good to be with you, Tonya.
So, how did you get into making maps, specializing in specifically maps for eclipses?
Well, I've been traveling around the world to see total solar eclipses since 1991. And in the year 2009, I was preparing for another eclipse that year, and this eclipse was at sea. And the existing eclipse maps weren't good enough for my purpose. I had a GPS receiver, and the ship was guaranteed to be at the point of very longest eclipse. So I want to keep the captain of the ship honest and make sure that we got to where it was advertised. And the existing maps weren't good enough, so I decided to combine my professional skills as a GIS professional with Esri, the leading GIS company, and my personal skills, my personal interest in chasing solar eclipses. So that's basically how I got started. I put some maps together for that eclipse. They were very, very well received, and people who saw these maps encouraged me to produce more maps. So I launched two websites with many, many maps, eclipse-maps.com and also greatamericaneclipse.com.
What are the different types of eclipse maps that you've built, and what are their objectives? What objectives are they for the maps?
Well, each eclipse has special challenges. For example, the recent eclipse that I just returned from in Chile, the sun was very low in the sky, and we were in the mountains of the Andes. So one thing is, in that area, you want to make sure that you don't get eclipsed by the mountains. You want to be eclipsed by the moon. So I produced some special maps that showed where the mountain shadows would lie at the time of total solar eclipse. So those were very useful. That's one kind of eclipse maps. For the 2017 eclipse in the USA, I knew that traffic would be a huge issue for that eclipse. So I made some maps applying GIS technology and using data from the US Census Bureau and a very detailed road network of every single road in the United States. And I made some statistical assumptions and predicted where the traffic would be. And it generally turned out to be spot on.
That's a lot of information. How do you organize the huge amount of data that it takes to provide the level of detail in your maps? What technology tools do you use in production?
Well, I use eclipse calculations generated by my friend who is Xavier Jubier from France. And we also use fundamental eclipse computations from a retired NASA astrophysicist named Fred Espinac. So those are my two chief collaborators in producing the maps that I use. Since I work in the GIS industry, I realized that GIS is a perfect technology for building hyper precise eclipse maps, far more accurate than ever before. I use Xavier's calculator to produce a gridded set of XYZ points. And I generate a grid of about 50 million points that span the path of a total solar eclipse. And then I use GIS techniques, the same software that we use to generate topographic maps with the contours and the hill shading. I use the same software, except instead of applying it to terrain, I apply it to durations and circumstances of the eclipse. One way that I think about these maps is that they're really time surface maps. It's an interesting way to look at it. For the positions are measured in X, Y, and Z, and normally Z is the elevation above mean sea level. But the way I produce my maps is I take the Z value to be the time of the eclipse or the duration of the eclipse. And in a nutshell, that's how I produce these hyper precise eclipse maps.
Of the many eclipses that you've witnessed in person, has your design process changed or improved as a result of actual firsthand viewing?
Well, what really affects my work is that I also collect historic eclipse maps. And you look at some of them, and not only are they beautiful and artistic, but they were very cleverly designed and built. Everything on an eclipse map, or any map for that matter, should be intentional. You should keep your audience in mind. You should know exactly what information the reader needs and what level of detail to present that information. And so mainly I've learned from these old eclipse maps, and that has a heritage going back to 1654. The very earliest eclipse maps, I've analyzed them, and they were just ingeniously constructed. The very first eclipse map is actually kind of a frozen animation, and I just love that map. It's on my website, eclipse-maps.com. So if someone's interested in that, um, and they can read my analysis of that. But that's what mainly informs how I make my eclipse maps, as well as the special circumstance of each eclipse.
What has been your biggest surprise about how the public actually consumes your work?
Uh, well, it's gratifying, for example, when I went to Casper, Wyoming for the eclipse, I just continuously bumped into people who were using my maps, and so that's a good feeling. Um, I think people love the special purpose maps, that predict a certain aspect of the eclipse, and that they really appreciate not only the precision, but the artistry that I'm trying to put into these maps. I feel very strongly about that. That in this computer age, not only can we make maps that are very technical and precise, but I think we have to go the extra mile. And I'm trying to bring back artistry to these maps and just make them beautiful. Eclipses are the most beautiful thing that you can experience in the sky, so the maps should be beautiful too.
Completely agree. They're amazing. So, with on that note, if you could only view one solar eclipse in the 21st century, which one would that be? Which one would you pick and why?
Coming up, the 2045 eclipse across the United States. And I would pick that one because I'm greedy. I like long duration of totality. And that's got a very long duration. I believe it's over 5 minutes in certain spots. So that's a good one. And so I'm hoping to keep my good health so that I can be there in 2045 and experience that eclipse. So
So,
that's one that I would pick.
sounds good to me, Michael. Michael Zeller, eclipse cartographer. If somebody wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can visit my website, greatamericaneclipse.com. They can also find me on social media. On Facebook, we're active at Great American Eclipse. That's a keyword that you would put into Facebook to find us. On Twitter, we're active as @ American Eclipse. You'll find us there. And on Instagram, you'll find us there as Great American Eclipse.
Thanks again. That's Michael Zeiler, and he makes some great maps. We do appreciate his time. And if you guys want to find me, you can. You can go right here to find more of my interviews or go to tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.